Sean?
So chemical levels, different things.
Use your microphone.
So chemical levels, we've all heard about phosphorus and different things. On a typical wooded 40 untouched by man, you have certain levels of chemicals. And have you tested the chemicals on this site and where are they at?
Yeah, so I want to be clear, they're not, phosphorus is an element. And that's why I really love when people put in digesters, because they're like, phosphorus goes away. Phosphorus is an element, it never goes away. It may concentrate, but it will be there. We did a study on a farm in Independence, Wisconsin, where we studied his cropland and his manured land versus his woodland, CRP land, and grassland. After 7 years, his woodland and CRP land were averaging about 0.35 pounds of phosphorus loss per acre. That may not sound like a lot, but when I do talks to the Sierra Club and stuff, I always say, what's an acceptable level of loss? And they always say 0. There is no 0. As long as something's growing, there will be phosphorus loss. And that's not all bad. It's just maintaining that loss. So we usually figure somewhere between 1/3 to 0.35 pounds of phosphorus is what comes at background levels. And that's an important number, because then we start to compare that to where you're at. Those are also soils in that particular farm. Those tree lands and that woodland actually has higher soil test phosphorus than his cropland. And that's because his cropland was he was taking crops off and continually pulling it out of the rotation. The other one cycled it, so as the roots got deeper, they were pulling phosphorus up and leaving it on top. And so we really started to wonder what we could do to better manage that. And long story short, we ended up harvesting buffers next to the stream, trying to pull phosphorus off closer, trying to get some of that stuff. We left long grass there in the fall of the year, but we were trying to harvest phosphorus off of that during the rest of the year. So there is a loss. I appreciate that question, because not a lot of people know that.
Beth, did you have a question?
Yes. But one of the things that you said about Dane County is that they're now spreading in the summer months. And I almost heard they have the sigh back here, because as you know, most of our economic revenue comes from the tourism business. That's the last time of the year we want to smell shit.
Well, tell me what you really think. No. 2 points of view, and that's why in Dane County right now, it's very common in the summer to surface supply that manure. Just spread it on the top with trucks, and then come in and do that in 3 to 4 days later, which is allowable. That's part of the reason why we're going in there with trying to get drag hoses, or at least on those tankers, put in what we call vertical tillage injection. We need to get that manure incorporated. And I was going to say that actually after Gene's talk went over, the one difference between incorporating manure into the ground is that if you put it on top, you'll get a smell for 3 to 5 days. If you incorporate it, you'll get it for about a day. You will never not have a smell. It all becomes what's acceptable. And minimizing that smell in Dane County, in any county, is really pretty critical. So what management practices can you do? I talked to the farm about some of the things the big farms in Wisconsin do, where they contact their neighbors, they find out what's going on in the community. They find out when a good time to spread is. So if you're telling me you're having a big festival, they don't spread, you know, and that doesn't mean that there aren't tourists here all the time, but there has to be a balance, obviously. So how do you make the best use of that balance to make everybody as happy as they can be? And I will tell you that, you know, living your own mess, and not everybody's ever going to be happy, but how do you get the majority of people to understand you're trying the best you can?